Magic isn't fake, you're just doing it wrong. So what we have to do is to start to define these terms. What do we mean by magic? What do we mean by spells or incantations or manifestation? Well, keep watching this video because I'm going to explain all of it. So let's start out with the basic stuff. What do we mean by spells or affirmations or manifestations or even prayer? If you focus on something, you tend to see more of it. You'll probably have noticed this if you've ever been or known somebody who has been pregnant, or if you've bought a new car of a particular type or a particular colour, you'll see them on the roads all the time. You'll see pregnant people all over the place. You'll see people getting married when you get married, or getting a new job when you get a new job. Whatever you focus on, you tend to see. What you're not focused on and not seeing, it still happens anyway. It's not like it doesn't happen. It's not like your focus makes it happen. It just means that you are seeing stuff around because you're focusing on it. So here's what's really interesting. My belief from a spiritual point of view is that things happen. Lots of things happen. Pretty much the world is infinite and it's full of possibility. And so if you focus on something that's broad enough but also specific enough, then you will see it. And I've spoken before about manifestation. This is what I mean by manifestation. It's not that you're creating this thing into existence just by thinking. It's about seeing something that's already there. The world is full of opportunities, it's full of things, it's full of people, it's full of connection. All you have to do is to see them. This is why people who believe they're lucky are lucky. People who believe they're unlucky are unlucky. People who believe that they're going to be bullied at work will be bullied at work. Now, I'm not victim blaming here. I'm just talking about things that you focus on become real. So when it comes to the psychological look at magic, it's really important to recognise that the difference between spells, manifestation, prayer and ritual is very, very small. They're almost synonyms for each other. So if you've got a lucky plectrum like this, is it lucky? Well, it is if you believe that it is. So yeah, sure, why not? And it goes for any kind of lucky charm. If you've got a magic penny or a lucky screwdriver, there's all these different things that people ascribe meaning to, and just because they ascribe meaning to it, it gives it meaning. And this is where we start talking about prayer and God and all of the different religions that there are on this planet. There are literally thousands of religions out there, and can all of them be wrong? Well, my view is that either all of them are wrong or none of them are wrong. This whole silliness about only one true path to true enlightenment, I don't buy that. I believe that if there is a God, it's going to be at least a part of us, and we are going to be able to tap into that divinity and that creation and that energy. Now, interestingly, from a scientific point of view, especially from string theory, all of the particles, all of the stuff, all of the matter that we're touching, feeling, made up of ourselves is actually just energy. Einstein said it himself. What's really cool about that is that even solid matter isn't really solid. It's just vibrational energy, vibrating at a really rapid rate, which means that it gives the impression or the illusion of solidity. Now, this is something that psychics and philosophers and even spiritualists have been saying for years, decades, centuries. If you alter your vibrational state, you can alter the world. Now, from a quantum physics point of view, that's now starting to look like quite a plausible explanation on how to influence the world around us. So we've spoken about affirmations and rituals and manifestation, and all of that kind of links in with belief. If we truly believe that something will happen, then potentially it will. Now, what's interesting about that is that if you are to change your belief system, your reality will automatically shift. So let's try a little experiment with you right now. Just think of your name. Now, whether your name is John or Joan, it doesn't really matter. But if I were to say that your name is Ferdinand and tell you that this is the truth, what happens to your belief? Of course, if your name is Ferdinand, change it for something that isn't Ferdinand, obviously. You believe that your name is John or Joan or whatever your actual real name is. Has your reality shifted? No. But what if you truly, truly, truly believed that that was your name? Your name was Ferdinand. I'm not going to gaslight you and tell you that that is your name, but I'd like you to imagine that it might be. What happens to your reality when that shift occurs? What I'm trying to get at here is that your belief that your name is your name hasn't been shifted by me telling you, but if you were to change your view and to believe what I'm telling you, then your reality has changed. And I'm not just talking about a hypothetical, like your name is Ferdinand, oh okay great, I'm going to believe that. I want you to really consider what that would mean for your reality. If your belief changes that your name is not whatever your name actually is, but it's actually Ferdinand, and you look at your keychain and it's got your name on it, in this little experiment we can say, well, of course that's actually my name. But what if you truly believe that your name is Ferdinand? Wouldn't you think, well, that's weird? So your whole perception and your reality changes based upon your belief system. So if you can gain full control of your belief system, your reality will shift anyway. What I'm trying to say here is that if reality is constructed in your mind, then surely you can change your reality by changing your perspective on life. That may seem like quite a lame way of doing it, but this is the power of magic. If you focus on yourself and change yourself, your belief, and what you focus on, the whole world will change around you anyway. Now, whether that's all in your head and that's not good enough, that's another question. So this really leads on to the belief being the trigger for action. You see, there's something called self-fulfilling prophecy. And I know I've done another video on that, and I've linked it up here about Richard Wiseman and all of his clever, cool experiments, talking about belief and manifestation and all of those sorts of things. But I think this really is quite relevant here. You see, what you expect to happen is going to be what you start to influence. There's a discussion too about placebo and painkillers in particular. Now, if you were to compare a new drug against nothing, just no sort of action, there will be some sort of consequence to that, and ultimately nothing is really going to change. Great, you got the baseline. You then start to introduce a placebo, saying, okay, I'm going to wave my hands like this and you're going to get better. A proportion of people will, which is weird. No one really fully understands the placebo effect. They understand what it does. They can even quantify it and predict how many people out of, say, 1,000 people are likely to get better just by me going, ooh. But they don't understand why or how. And so new drugs coming onto the market get tested against the placebo effect, not just against nothing. They don't go, if we do nothing, this will happen. If we introduce this drug, this will happen. They also have a placebo control group. But they also say, I'm going to introduce this thing, and they present the thing that's just saline solution or something that ultimately has no real clinical effect, but it has some sort of placebo effect because people believe that this will happen. Now, in the placebo effect, what's really weird is that you can tell people that it's a placebo pill and it will still work because it's operating on the unconscious mind rather than on the conscious mind. So there seems to be something in the unconscious mind that starts to focus on whatever it is that you've told it to focus on, i.e. get better or become lucky or whatever. Now, if medical science believes in the placebo effect and the power of the mind to manifest things that even it can't explain, it can't understand how people get better from cancer or solve these chronic conditions that would otherwise have no cure. They can't explain how that happens, but they know that it does. So if that happens, surely there has to be something else going on. And this leads into expectancy theory, which is the belief that if you expect something to happen, it will be more likely to happen than not. Which is why people who believe they are victims tend to have higher rates of chronic illness, higher rates of depression, lower rates of success in the lottery. All because those people who believe that they're lucky, believe that they're healthy, believe that they're happy, tend to be more so. They start to do things that would set them up for that life of success, for happiness, for health. Have you noticed that hypochondriacs tend to not only feel ill more often, but also get more ill than other people? Because they're hyper aware of even the smallest sniffle that then leads to something else, that leads to something else, that leads to something else. So my calling to you is to try to believe that you are lucky. No, don't try, just do it. There are, of course, psychological methods and mechanisms at play here, including confirmation bias, i.e. we see what we expect to see. We believe that something is true, and so when we see it, we go, see, told you. And then we ignore all of the negative times that we don't see what we expect to see. If someone says, you will see a horse on your way to work, you're going to not see a horse, not see a horse, not see a horse, not see a horse, until you do see a horse. And it might be that day, it might be the next day, it might be later on that week, but suddenly you'll be like, wow, I've never seen a horse on my way to work before, but now I did, and it's because this person said so. The chances are you probably would have seen a horse if you were looking for one pretty much all the time, every time you go to work. But now I've mentioned it, if you travel to work, you'll probably see a horse. And if you do, by the way, can you put it down in the comments just to confirm that I'm right? Another really cool psychological mechanism here is cognitive dissonance, which means that when something happens that counteracts your belief system, you'll either ignore it or your actions will change to account for it. Your conditions or actions will adjust to account for the new information or to match the new belief that you've now got. You've also got anchoring and priming, and I've mentioned anchoring in this video up here, have a look at that one, but priming is a perfect one as well, where you say that you should expect to see X, Y, Z. Or if I were to say the body temperature of a chicken, 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 don't need to complete that sentence, but next time you hear the body temperature of a chicken tends to be around 27 degrees C. You're more likely to judge that as true because I've said the body temperature of a chicken, even though I haven't said what the full fact is. That's not true, by the way. I think it runs hotter, about 40 something degrees. Check your facts, ladies and gentlemen. Check your facts. So how do we structure this? Well, we structure it typically in religion and ritual. This provides some sort of structure, some sort of basis, some sort of skeleton groundwork for how we go about making these things actually possible. And it shouldn't be a surprise that these sorts of things do work. We've been doing them for thousands of years. Just like with the priming, repetition builds these habits and puts it into your unconscious mind in such a way that it can be used. You see, the brain treats repeated actions and repeated belief as true. It doesn't matter whether those things are true or not. Talk about the 4-minute mile, for example. Until fairly recent history, it was thought that it was impossible to run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did it in the 1970s. Since then, the 4-minute mile has been reduced and reduced and reduced by about another 17, maybe even 18 seconds, with the world record holder setting a new record in 1999. Admittedly, it's not been broken since, but that doesn't mean that that's the end. That doesn't mean that that is the pinnacle of human existence. I'm sure at some point someone else is going to break it. So why do we do these rituals? Well, the answer lies not only in repetition, but in symbols. You see, symbols carry meaning, not to the conscious mind, although also to the conscious mind in some religions, but mainly to the unconscious mind. See, the unconscious mind doesn't have an internal monologue. It works on symbols. That's one of the reasons why we dream. We don't have dreams about someone sitting in front of us explaining quantum physics. What we do dream about, though, is people opening up a can and it having your cat mewing inside it, cans of butter, visions about car parks, candy floss clouds, or spiders crawling out from underneath your skin. All of these symbols mean something to your unconscious mind and it tries to get these things out. Nightmares tend to be, how are you going to deal with this crazy situation? And it's about learning to deal with fear in an adult way. This is one of the reasons why adults don't tend to have anywhere near as many nightmares as young children do. You see, words are also incredibly important, but only really to the conscious mind. What the unconscious mind is dealing with is the meaning of those words. And this is why affirmations and mantras work. You see, there's a principle called linguistic relativity, which is where the linguistics or words that we use have relevance to the unconscious mind and then start to become relevant in the world around you, what you see, what you perceive, your reality. In terms of real-world examples of spells or rituals or mantras that seem to be operated in the world around us all the time, is athletes with a lucky pair of boxer shorts, special kind of gear or routines, the coach slapping all the players on the backside on the way into the football stadium, or maybe he's just a creep. I hadn't thought about that. Public speakers tend to have confidence rituals where they stand at the side of the stage and they do the power posing. If you want to see about power posing, by the way, have a look at this video up here. People in business often have manifestation or vision boards. So how do you tap into all of these wonderful things to do with the brain? Well, thankfully, the brain has something called neuroplasticity, which means that it can be moulded, it can create new connections. And this is really exciting because it means that you can effectively retrain your brain to make use of all of this positive stuff. Let's talk about visualization a second, because this is awesome. Did you know that visualizing something, imagining it, and really lucidly thinking about something in a very positive way elicits the same brain activity as actually doing it? In a book by Richard Wiseman called Quirkology, he talks about where athletes would use visualization techniques to create an outcome, some sort of positive effect, running faster, jumping higher, hitting as many goals or volleys as possible, depending on which sport they're looking at. Now, they had various different control groups, and what they did was split the participants into those people who practiced a lot more, those people who practiced the same amount but visualized, and those people who just carried on doing whatever they would normally do. What they found, unsurprisingly, was those people who practiced more got better faster. But the second group, those who visualized, got better at nearly the same rate. Now, bear in mind, those people who only visualized didn't do any extra training, but they still outperformed those people who just did the regular training. And so if you do your regular training and you visualize, everything's going to get so much better. What that means is that if you do the extra training and you visualize, you can get better again. You can have compound effects. This is where neuroplasticity comes in. You visualize doing it, and your brain builds those wirings to make sure that you can do it when the time comes. I've spoken a lot on this video about belief, but how do you strengthen it? How do you make it the optimal belief that you possibly can? Well, this is where you add emotion in. And one of the cool things about spells in particular is that you start to add things into it, the symbols, the belief, the emotion. All of those things working together creates a strong neural imprint. And what this means is that the pathway in your mind becomes stronger and reinforced. If you put your brain under an MRI scanner, you would see it light up in a much stronger way than just believing something on its own. So try to involve emotion when you're doing these sorts of things. Think about how wonderful that's going to feel when you eventually do it, when you finally reach your goal, lost the weight that you wanted to lose, when you've got that promotion. Just imagine how awesome that's going to be. Feel it. Really feel it, because that's the best way of making a very strong imprint in your brain and in the world. So are you casting spells already? Well, it's an interesting question, because you might already be planning things, putting them in the diary, putting out affirmations or social media posts, telling people what you're going to be doing, telling people what your goals are and when you're going to achieve them. All of these things, these affirmations, these mantras, they are effectively like spells, and if you truly believe that that's going to happen, you are adding power to that belief. You're making these things happen and you're manifesting these things into the world. Good for you. So take this time right now to reflect on whether or not you are creating these spells and whether or not you've already done them, intentional or otherwise, and whether or not you want to keep on doing this sort of thing. I would recommend that you do. So in conclusion, and I don't normally do an in conclusion bit, it kind of sounds a bit like a Jerry Springer show, magic is cool. Keep on doing it. Belief is a tool, it's not a trick. If you believe something, you will be creating a reality where that thing becomes real. The power is real, even if the spell isn't. It doesn't actually matter whether the spell works or not. If you believe something is real, it may as well be to you. Put some emotion behind it, make that sort of thing happen. Pick something that's going to make your life better, make you feel good, make those around you feel good. Share the love, share the power, share the success and wealth with the world. God, I sound like a hippie. And so on to my final thought, where I definitely sound like Jerry Springer. You don't really need a wand. All you really need is belief and a set of tools that might help you. One of the sets of tools, by the way, is explained in this video, so have a look at it. If you did like this video, please click that like button, subscribe, ding that bell, and if you want to see this sort of video before everybody else, have a look down in the description where you can become a member for £1.99 per month. I'll be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Stay magical.